Now, please welcome to the stage the CEO of WeightWatchers, Sima Sistani.
Don't ever take my power, my power, my power. Don't ever take my power, my power, my power. They feel away, oh wow. They feel away.
Thank you. Wow, it's wonderful to be in Vegas with all of you. And shout out to whoever decided that holding a health conference in Sin City makes sense. It's a bold move. I'm here for it. In fact, I'm here to do something bold too. Some might even call it impossible. But it's key to solving one of the most important health challenges of our time. No, it's not a technical innovation. It's not a medical mystery. It's a word problem. And that word is weight. In America today, people hate talking about weight. I get it, it's hard. But that's because we're talking about weight all wrong. I used to hate discussing weight too. I joined WeightWatchers as CEO last year, but I first joined nearly a decade ago as a member first. While I was pregnant with my first kid, I gained around 60 pounds, and the months after giving birth, I didn't feel like myself. I wasn't as active as I wanted to be. I didn't fit into the clothes that brought me joy. And for me, the point system was great. It's not a fix for everyone. I'll come back to that later. But when nothing else worked, WeightWatchers did. I didn't struggle with the program, but I did struggle with weight shame. Shame around gaining weight. Shame around losing weight. Shame for wanting to change how I looked, and shame for liking the way I looked. We know that shame comes from everywhere. Our media, our relationships, and even our medical system. We also know that shame is compounded by intolerance. A longitudinal Harvard study found in 2016 that the vast majority of people, 81%, had an implicit bias against people they saw as fat. While every other implicit bias, race, gender, sexual orientation, decreased over the study period, fat phobia went up. This bias and the way it manifests has clear consequences for our mental health, but it also wreaks havoc on our physical health. A study from Johns Hopkins University showed that only 1% of doctors are trained to treat obesity, and that knowledge gap leads to ignorance at best and stigma at worst. To no one's surprise, stigma and ignorance, hey, bad for our public health. And bad for our bodies. Patients with bigger bodies are underrepresented in clinical trials, and that means the resulting treatments are less likely to work on them. Doctors with negative attitudes about people with obesity may misdiagnose or mistreat patients with bigger bodies, which can actually exacerbate the conditions the patient wanted treated in the first place. And because we can't even have an honest, productive conversation about weight, we aren't getting to the next stage, leveraging the resources, the medical breakthroughs, the digital health tools that could help us live longer, happier, healthier lives. Instead, we're allowing health risks to progress, giving way to obesity-related diseases from diabetes to heart problem to cancer. And the obesity epidemic in the United States, it's just that, an epidemic responsible for nearly 500,000 excess deaths annually. I want you all to imagine the Titanic disaster. And now I want you to imagine it 300 times over every single year. That is the kind of scale we're dealing with. You can't treat what you can't talk about. And in America, we don't do either very well. The shame, the bias, the hate around weight, it's not just a cultural problem, it's a medical crisis. The good news is we've made great progress on the medical side. A new generation of obesity medications are changing the treatment landscape for patients and providers. While these drugs have been intensely debated, their efficacy, it's undeniable. For some of these medications, success rates are starting to approach that of bariatric surgery. And thanks to the work of many dedicated scientists, technologists, doctors, patients, some of whom are probably in this room right here, we've written a new chapter in the story of obesity care. We have a clearer path than ever towards preventing, treating, and even curing people with weight-related chronic disease. So even with all the shame around weight, this is an incredibly exciting and hopeful time to be in this space. We have the medications, we have the behavioral tools, we have the innovations we need to start delivering better health outcomes for people around the world. What we don't have is a healthy way to talk about it. In June of 2013, the American Medical Association classified obesity as a chronic disease. And by making that designation, the AMA hoped to drive systematic changes in how medical community, policymakers, insurers, and the general public approach obesity. 10 years later, there's been some progress, but we have a long way to go. And a huge part of the problem is that we still don't talk about obesity the way we talk about other disease. We don't assume someone with anemia has anemia based on the way they look. We don't approach someone with arthritis and tell them it's because of their lifestyle choices. Today, it seems like obesity is the only disease for which we assign blame. That wasn't always the case. I want you to think about how we used to talk about mental health. During the 1972 election, the Democratic nominee for president removed his running mate from the ticket after learning that he had been secretly hospitalized for depression. Decades later, in the mid-2000s, magazines ran mocking headlines about Britney Spears' struggle with bipolar disorder. Inside Britney's breakdown, time bomb, insane. In short, we were terrible about talking about mental health. But we weren't talking about mental health, were we? Not in those words anyways. Back then, we called it mental illness. We shamed, we judged, we otherized people who struggled with it, and we turned our noses up at viable treatments for it. We told people, just be happy, put in the work, and we most certainly didn't improve their health outcomes. But these days, we talk about mental health, and we talk about it a lot. Presidents go on podcasts to talk about it. Princes even host podcasts to talk about it. Therapy, it's first date fodder. Antidepressants are part of our personal brands. Just last week, the New York Times ran a story about mental health merch, included a sweatshirt that says Lexapro, and a shirt that reads, depressed, but make it hot. Does this progress mean we've completely eradicated the stigma around mental health challenges? Of course not. But research shows that changing language around mental health both reduces stigma and reduces barriers to care. And importantly, if we look at the world before COVID, as mental health discourse increased, suicide rates declined. A similar phenomenon happened with heart disease. In the 1970s, cardiovascular disease was the leading cause of death in the United States. Back then, the media, the medical community gave the same guidance. Eat less fat. They also offered the same advice for spotting a heart attack. Simply look for the old white guy clutching his heart. You would never know from watching TV or talking to your physician that health heart was as much about genetics as it was about lifestyle, or that cardiovascular disease was a leading cause of death for women, or that fully half of Black women in this country have some form of the disease, and that they are more likely to die from it than white women. But in due time, a new term arrived on the scene, heart health. Soon, maintaining a healthy heart was for everyone, even kids eating breakfast. We were encouraged to look at the hereditary factors contributing to risk in addition to our diet and our habits. And women especially gained a new vocabulary for understanding and talking about their hearts, as well as recognizing the signs that something was wrong. And since then, thanks to a combination of factors, breakthroughs, the mortality rate for cardiovascular disease has been cut in half. It's a virtuous cycle. We reframe the way we talk about the health of our hearts and our minds, which improves advocacy, diagnosis, treatment, and outcomes, which in turn helps us continue to drive the discourse forward, and so on and so on. And so it's time for us to do the same in our field, to acknowledge what this work is really about, to shape the future of medical progress and to shift the conversation around weight once and for all toward our actual goal: weight health. Changing the words we use won't change everything, but when one of the biggest roadblocks to health is bad conversations or no conversations at all, you have to start by shifting the language, because eventually the language shifts the culture and the culture shifts the outcomes. You might be wondering, what does weight health even mean? How can I take care of something that I've only been taught to lose? Put simply, your weight health is the impact weight has on your quality of life. It's not about hitting an arbitrary number on the scale. It's not about looking a certain way. It's certainly not about thinness. It's about finding your best weight, the point where you're eating and exercising in ways that make you happy and healthy. It's about adopting healthy habits that help you prevent disease and feel good. It's about understanding, managing, and treating weight as a spectrum, something that changes as you age and grow, just like any kind of health. Unlike all the language we've used before, weight health, it's for everyone. And because our bodies are all different, the tools we require are going to be different too. At WeightWatchers, we're reorienting our business around weight health. It's not just a phase or a phrase. It's our strategic North Star. And if we get this right, the beginning of weight health will be the end of diet culture. There are 3 steps for us, and the first is increasing access. We recently acquired a telehealth platform which provides clinical care for patients with obesity, including prescriptions for weight loss medication. A lot of people had mixed feelings about this new direction, but to us, it wasn't a new direction at all, because there isn't only one way to take care of your weight health. As I touched on before, just counting points doesn't work well for everybody or every body. By opening up new ways to manage weight health and combining medication with healthy habits, we can help more people access tools that actually work for them. Of course, increasing access means working to bring down the barrier of cost. And with these new medications, the barrier can be high. At WeightWatchers, we're helping members find the balance in treatment styles that works for them, allowing them to better manage their costs while we work to make these interventions more accessible in every way. Another barrier we must remove is bias, and we can start by listening to those affected by it. I mean, more than 50% of patients needing care experience some form of bias at the doctor's office. We heard from them that telehealth has become the preferred primary care solution, so we're providing it, and in turn offering even greater access to quality weight health care. Our second step is expanding education. WeightWatchers turned 60 this year. Happy birthday. We're older than email, CDs, the game Pong. Some of you don't even know what that is. But listen, we're not the same company we were 6 decades ago. And we're not even the same company we were 6 years ago or even 6 months ago. We know so much more now, and that's a good thing. We'll continue to learn about new technologies, new approaches, new scientific studies, and we will evolve our products using that new information, and we'll also do our part in educating others, even when it's not popular. When it comes to new medications, a healthy amount of skepticism is important, but all the heated discussions around these drugs have given way to harmful misinformation, which prevents patients from seeking out a treatment that could really benefit them. And as we continue to learn about these medications and how well they work, who they work best for, we plan to share the critical information and that data with not only our members, but with you, the general public. Finally, number 3, building community. Community is why WeightWatchers was founded in 1963 and why we continue to lead in the weight health space today. Community, whether virtually or in person, provides the support system that no drug alone can offer. I'm talking about tangible, measurable benefits that study after study has found that having people in your corner will help you live a longer life, a healthier life, a happier life. And until weight health changes the way that doctors and society treat people in bigger bodies, and even after weight loss drugs become available to all those who need them, we must do everything we can to protect the community spaces we hold dear. If we do these three things, increase access, expand education, build community, we can help more people care for their own weight health. And that's the goal. We aren't just trying to change the narrative, we're trying to change people's lives. And yes, save people's lives. Look, talking about weight, it's hard, but it doesn't have to be. For decades, we've discussed weight, dieting, and obesity in terms that isolate people and often demotivate them. The stigma around weight-related disease has been so strong that it keeps people from adopting the tools they need to treat it. The intolerance people feel from society and then internalize, it's harmful, even deadly. And by embracing weight health, we can change that. So today we're setting the foundation for more effective, inclusive, and user-centric digital solutions. Most importantly, for better health outcomes. So I urge all of you, the innovators of today, tomorrow, join us. Let's make weight health the new standard and begin a new era in digital care. Let's change the way we talk about weight so we can improve the way we treat weight health. Let's build a world where every person feels seen, heard, understood, and empowered to get the treatment that they deserve. And help us start a movement that will be remembered, not for the weight that people have lost, but for the health that people have gained. Thank you.
Thank you, Sima. This concludes today's main stage sessions. Don't miss our welcome reception tonight, sponsored by Nemours Children's Health, Teladoc, and Oak HCFT. Enjoy food, drinks, and entertainment at the Wynn Event Pavilion at 7 p.m.